Oh, Merry Christmas. We are talking about some classic Hallmark Christmas movies. It's so much fun when we get to do this. And I'm Rachel Wagner, and Thaddeus is here.
Hello, Merry Christmas in spring,
Yes, Merry
everyone.
Christmas to you. Yes. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I think it's about time. If you have to go get a little bit of time, a little bit of space away from the Christmas movies. But I
Hmm.
think, it was time to get a little Christmas in my life.
Yes.
So we're good.
Yeah, yeah. And especially like these types that the two that we're going to talk about today are like the sort of sticky, sweet
Mhm.
version of Hallmark Christmas movies
Mhm.
that we don't get quite this kind
Mhm.
much anymore. This like really community and laying it on real thick and
Mhm.
everything. We get a few like I was thinking about it the Bethlehem one
Mhm.
last year was kind of like that. You
Mhm.
know, it was
Yeah,
very
Sons of
like
Mistletoe, you may get.
wholesome.
Yeah, I think with the first one we're going to talk about, we do get one here and there that's similar to this,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but movie number two, that's we don't get. I don't really see us getting
No,
many on Hallmark Channel
no.
anymore. So
Never. And so what we're doing is we're moving up the calendar of the release dates of these. So last time people should listen to our episode on the Little Angel and other two movies. I can't remember their titles, Mr. Stubbies, and I can't remember the one that was really fun, the Hanukkah kind of one. Um,
yes,
I can't remember its title, but that I loved that episode of the podcast. I thought it was really fun, and but it was wild. Those movies were wild, and these are more like we're getting closer to what we think of as Hallmark movies today.
yeah, I think I can't remember what the title of the movie, the one with Milton Berle and all
Yeah,
those seven,
yeah,
which yeah.
yeah. That one was really good, but it's like oh yeah, I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, this we're getting closer when we've jumped up quite a few years. Now we're talking about 2000 and 2001. So we got a
Mhm.
bump. And neither of these were Hall of Fame though. So these were just
Regular,
yeah, regular Hallmark movies. And so we're going to talk about The Sons of Mistletoe and The Christmas Secret. And Sons of Mistletoe, like I said, aired in 2001. And it's a foster home for boys is in danger of being closed when its benefactor dies. And this stars Roma Downey and George Newbern in our
Mhm.
leads.
Mhm.
And it was directed by Stephen Robman and written by Derek Cloud.
Mhm.
And I guess what was your overall feelings about this movie?
Yeah, I thought it was okay. It was very kind of prototypical, like classic
Hmm.
Hallmark Christmas movie with the
Yeah,
small town and
yeah,
the city woman coming to the small town and she's a businesswoman and, you know,
yes,
all of very kind of classic. But one of the first ones. So,
yeah.
but yeah, I liked it overall. It was okay.
They even have a dog named Buddy. I mean, that was like the whole sign. But yeah, I did think it was pretty sweet. I did enjoy it. I mean, it has Doris Roberts in it.
Yeah.
It's got, just sort of those classic Hallmark things, that were gonna be but I really do love George Newbern. He's one of those people that I feel like should have been a big star. Like I'm not sure why he didn't like take off because he's so charming. He's very
Mhm.
attractive and I mean I love him in Father of the Bride
Mhm.
and I don't know I mean he's still working. He's got a
Yeah.
career,
I
so
liked him
way to
in Scandal
go.
too. His character in Scandal.
Yeah, I heard that was good.
Where he was more of like a gray character. Well, but of course, everybody on Scandal was a gray character,
Right.
but him in particular, he was a darker gray character.
Yeah.
And he's a very good actor. He can do a bunch of different things. Like you can definitely see the charm. You can definitely see. He did a very good job of pulling off like a darker character. I like him too, and I liked him
Yeah.
in.
and he's kept working, so that's good. It's just it's just always interesting when you see those people, you think that person had like star potential. I mean,
Hmm.
I don't see why he couldn't have had the career of Paul Rudd. They look
Hmm.
very similar, and
Yeah, yeah, they do. I can see. Yeah.
but but he's really charming in this. I mean, I found the ending to be quite shocking.
What
Like for a Hallmark movie like this, I'm like, wow, I thought it was kind of surprising.
the
I mean,
the twist?
yeah,
To
I
be
mean,
honest,
because
I
like for
saw
instance,
it.
if you think about Hallmark today, they
Uh-huh.
couldn't have Andrew Walker's character have a child in Three Wise
Yeah,
Men
that's
and a
true.
baby out of
Yeah,
wedlock.
if you look at it
They
for that,
still couldn't go that far, which because it makes no sense. Like the whole thing would have made way more sense if he was the father and she's leaving her child on with the father. Like that would have made sense, but they just can't do that. They can't like step that far out of their moral compass. But here in this case,
well, this is pre,
pretty,
pr- you know,
yeah,
pre, squeaky clean Hallmark. And
yeah,
so for me, like, I mean, I felt like they were just laying the clues. They were talking because they kept talking about how the boy's mother was George Newburn's ex, and he
yeah.
still had to like be carrying a torch. And then they were constantly talking about finding this boy's father. Then they were constantly, and then one of the things, the thing that really sealed it for me was like one of the times they were talking about it. He said that his mother had said that the father was really smart, and the character George Newburn's character had like gone off to some fancy college. I was like, yep, he's the father. So yeah.
Like in a normal movie, I would agree with you, but I still don't think today in a Hallmark movie they would do this. I
Oh
think
no,
that they would.
I don't think
No,
so.
no, they couldn't. So that's why it was so surprising to
Oh,
me.
well, I think you know what, if they did this in a modern movie, they would have had them be like a young couple that had like eloped
No.
and then broken up somehow, and
Yeah,
he was pregnant when
yeah.
they guess what would happen in a modern movie.
Ho, ho, ho! We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
Yeah, absolutely. But you've got this like home for boys,
Mhm.
and this is the like most sort of jolly place to.
Mhm.
I don't know if you were like this, but when I was little, like most of the time we would play variations on the Boxcar Children
Mm.
that we were orphans of some kind, and this idea of like growing up with like a whole house full of other kids. It's maybe we hadn't seen Annie enough. I don't know, but it's
Mm.
like a great idea.
I kind of, well, I definitely remember reading the Boxcar Children books and
Yes.
imagining that I was an orphan with like some of my cousins, but I don't think we actually like played it a little bit. But yes,
Yeah.
so it was interesting because most of the kids were happy except for the one, right?
Yeah.
Um,
So
all the
there's this
other kids
new
were
kid
like,
named
yes.
Wiley, and he's
Hmm.
bad news. He's a
Hmm.
troublemaker.
Yeah.
And basically the George Newborn character, what's his name? Jimmy. So he
Mhm.
says to Wiley, he says, look, we got to make the best of the situation. This is it. And he was just extremely likable, I thought, in this. The way that he, like, the kid doesn't want to sit in school. He doesn't like
Mhm.
going to school. And so he's like, fine, I'm going to sit behind you in class
Mhm. Yes, they
and make
kept
sure you go to school. I mean, things like that,
Mhm.
scenes like that, I thought were like really endearing
Mhm.
to this
Yeah,
character.
with his character, I just, found there was a couple scenes. So Roma Downey's character,
Yeah.
that like inherited the property from from her strange father who had passed away,
Yeah.
and it seemed like he was the sole. He had been the home's like sole benefactor and was like keeping them open. And there were a couple of times, one scene where she was like, why haven't you looked at for other sources of funding? Like, why are you
Yeah.
just depending on me for everything? And I think she had a point. And
Yeah.
so
I did think everything with her was less effective. And it's so funny you say that because I even wrote in my notes. She's right. Why isn't he going around town asking for funding from everybody else? Why is he only relying on this one source? That doesn't make any sense. And she doesn't even she's treated as the bad person, but she don't I don't think she even has the choice of to sell the estate. Like she has to. And it's just given to her as one like lump thing, it seems like. It's not
yeah,
as far as the house. And so everything I thought with Jimmy and Wiley, I really
yeah,
enjoyed.
yes,
And the other kids were cute. And you've got this whole
yeah,
scene with Wiley, and he's like, he's like, why don't you come? Jimmy says, why don't you come home? And he's like, I'm making my own home here with this cardboard, making his
yeah,
own house. And just stuff like
yeah,
that was cute. And
yeah,
Buddy and the dog.
yeah, yeah. I will have to say the Wiley storyline was probably my favorite thing. I liked when
Yeah.
when he like broke, vandalized the window and like broke and Doris Roberts arrested him. Those
It is
scenes.
the strangest casting. Now Doris Roberts playing a sheriff. Like that's just weird.
But she pulled it off,
and, and the introduction of Roma's character, the teens are all, kind of teasing Jimmy, and they're like, hey, she's hot. And he's like,
Yeah. And so they're basically like, yeah, you should seduce her so that she could give us some money to keep us.
and he's basically like, yeah, she is hot, but don't treat people like that. And it's so it was cute and funny. And at first Wiley doesn't want to help, yeah, around the house and stuff, and they're like, even Buddy helps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thanks.
And it's like, Wiley had been, put out of multiple foster homes, and and he just wanted to be on his own. He was hoping that his father would come back to get
Mm-hmm.
him, because his father had been, you know,
Yeah.
gone to parts unknown. We didn't know where he was or what happens, but and then of course we know why at
Yeah.
at the end.
You even get the scene that every family movie from the 1990s thought they needed to have is a food fight scene.
Yes.
There was always
Yes. That
it's
is
like,
your food fights are very nice, I have to say.
yes.
That was a so this movie probably was filmed or like, written, at least in like the late 90s. So of
Yeah, I
course.
mean, I was just glad that we didn't go full on Home Alone,
Mhm.
because there was definitely a decade where people that every single family comedy had to be Home Alone, whether it was 101 Dalmatians or Three Ninjas or whatever it was. It had to have that like over the top, physical comedy that you had in Home Alone. And
Yeah.
then it just was every single family comedy
Yeah,
for
that
a
became
long time.
for a while. Yeah.
So they didn't do that, thankfully. You didn't have like Roma's character like getting booby trapped. So I was
Yeah.
grateful for that. But yeah, the food fight was just felt very 90s to me. It was very funny.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
you think of like Hook and movies like that. And and then yeah, we have this whole conversation where she says, "You can't hound on me. Why isn't the rest of the town supporting you? Why is it just me?" I'm like,
Yeah.
genius.
Why?
She's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing too is that it really makes absolutely no sense that he would refuse to take on Wiley if they, I guess, if they have the beds and stuff, because that would mean more income for him. They're acting like the state doesn't support foster care families and houses and things like this, which they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he would actually be more motivated
Yeah.
financially than less to take
Yeah.
Wiley in.
Yeah.
If we're just talking on that level. So that didn't really make sense. I even wrote down, I'm like, the government doesn't support this home? Like, what is happening?
Yeah. What
Um,
do you think of the chemistry between him and Roma Downey?
not much.
Yeah, I
Not
didn't.
much.
I wasn't really feeling it either.
No.
Mhm.
And she felt I didn't look this up, but she felt older to me. It just, I don't know, just wasn't feeling it. Maybe if they'd had them like go on a date or like have a little bit more couple time, but most of it was pretty business.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you didn't really get a chance to like have some flirty fun.
Yeah, they didn't like start having anything. It was like, it was like 2/3 through the movie where we saw like that first little like moment where,
Mhm.
like, oh, there's an attraction here kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I think also like that wig that they that they had her in did not do her
It wasn't
anything.
the best. I agree. I wonder why they did that. They were just trying to really differentiate her from her Touched by an Angel character, or
Because I mean,
I
this was kind of like on the heels of Touched by an
yeah,
Angel.
yeah. I like when they say that that I like when they say that her father didn't trust New Yorkers.
They're only 4 years.
That was funny because she's supposed to be like the tough talk in New York.
Mhm.
Like what?
Yeah, yeah. So they're only 4 years apart. So, but I think,
Okay,
but I
okay,
think the way that they like styled her and that
yeah,
wig, it made her look older.
yeah.
Uh,
I agree.
mhm.
Um, and they say most of the boys wouldn't want to go back to their families if they could, which is kind of interesting.
That's
That yeah,
slightly dark,
yeah,
but
it is.
but actually realistic for like a lot of for a good portion
Mhm.
of of kids that end up in the
Yeah,
foster system now.
yeah. I mean, yeah, which is probably less a that's probably saying more about the troubled families
Mhm.
than the great state of foster care. But certainly, if you were in a really loving home like this, or
Mhm.
then that would be ideal, I guess, given the situation. There's sort of a back and forth between her and Wiley.
Mhm.
He kind of runs away,
Mhm.
and and it was really cute because all the boys are all looking for him,
Yes.
and and Jimmy is looking for him, and I don't know, it was sweet, and he's
Yeah.
like, that don't you ever come back here again, and that he's like, I hate you.
Yes.
Her.
Yeah.
It was
I,
cute.
he was. I would say he was very good. That actor that played Wiley.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So then there's the big scene. They meet with Wiley's dad. They find him,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, I'm not Wiley's dad. That he just lets Sadie use his name on the birth certificate, and I guess just he was just trying to be nice.
Well, he had a crush on her. He'd had a crush on her
Mm.
their whole lives. And so, he went along with it for that reason, because she didn't want to hold back Jimmy from, going to college or whatever he was doing. And so they even like said that they even lied about his birth date and said that he was born like several months later. I don't know how they managed to do that, but they
Yeah.
sometimes they manage to do that.
And so he's like, "Are you sitting down? I've got a shocker for you." And
Mhm.
he tells Jimmy, and I was kind of shocked. I mean, you just would not see that in a Hallmark movie now, but
Yeah.
his response was very sweet.
Mhm.
And he tells Wiley, and he says, "I'm happier than I've ever been in my life. I've always wanted to be a dad."
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
so sweet.
Which made sense with what he ended up doing for a living.
Yeah.
Um, and um, and it was nice seeing them kind of building up their relationship through the course of the movie,
Hmm.
before they found out the truth.
Yeah.
But like I said, for me, I like they were dropping those hints, and the um, and, and the other thing that had me like, in that mindset was that I had just watched the wrong Christmas secret movie.
Uh-huh.
where find out that where they of course they find out that the lady is that she works for ends up working for in that little town was actually her grandmother. So
Uh-huh.
I think that might have also colored the way that I was seeing the clues and stuff like that.
So, do you think that they could remake this? And who would you cast as Jimmy?
So I don't think that I mean, I think they've made enough similar movies
Uh-huh.
already that they wouldn't need to. But if, hmm, who would I cast as
I
Jimmy
feel
now?
like it's a no-brainer. If you had Tyler Hines playing Jimmy, I think this would be a huge hit.
Okay,
I think
and-
everybody would go nuts for him saying, "I'm happier than I've ever been in my life, and I've always wanted to be a dad."
okay. Who would you cast as the Roma Downey
I think you
business?
could cast almost anybody. I'm trying to think. I mean, he usually has pretty good chemistry with his co-stars.
Mhm.
Um,
You know who? Aaron Krakow. There we go.
oh yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Because
She's so
she's
good
from,
with kids too.
yeah, and she's from Philadelphia, so she could do New York. So yeah,
Yes.
so yeah, there we go.
I mean, that thing would do so well. If you're listening
Yeah,
to Hallmark Channel, I'm telling you right now,
yeah,
that thing would get huge ratings.
yeah. Yes, there we go. Aaron Krakow and Tyler Harry reunited.
Yeah.
And
I mean, the other person that I thought of that I think could pull off playing sort of the more business type and has good chemistry with Tyler is Taylor Cole.
oh yeah, yeah,
I feel like she would
that,
be good too.
mhm, yeah.
So either one.
Mhm.
So there you go. That's our great idea for. I would give this one a 3.5, even though I agree that the Roma stuff was pretty bland and lame. The stuff with Wiley and Jimmy was really cute, and I like Doris Roberts like piping in, and
Mhm.
it was sweet.
Yeah, so I want to do 3.25.
Yeah,
So I agree. Like I liked it. The romance didn't really do much for
yeah,
me, and like some of the premise of the movie didn't really make sense. But I thought that especially the Wiley story with Jimmy was really good, and while actually just the whole thing with Wiley, like him kind of slowly integrating into the house with other kids, and and Doris Roberts too. It was very sweet and very Christmassy. So I
yeah.
am enjoying that. So I think you know that kind of outweighed the romantic story a little bit for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. I'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's Elise Murray and her exciting book, Society Girl. Set in the mysterious world of Oxford University's secret societies, Society Girl follows Sam, a duke's estranged daughter, as she attempts to join the most famous club of them all, the Animos Society. Her final initiation challenge is simple: find a man, convince him she's in love with him, and then break his heart in humiliating fashion. Hardened by her father's rejections, believing that the Animos Society is her key to his love and acceptance, Sam throws herself into making Daniel Best, her father's chauffeur and local musician, fall for her. But she never counted on falling in love with him right back. Fans of Colleen Hoover, Anna Hong, and Mia Sheridan will love Society Girl, a sweeping romance from best-selling novelist and screenwriter Elise Murray. Free for Kindle Unlimited users for a limited time. Go to elisemurray.com/novels/Society Girl for more information. Or you can use the affiliate link below. All right. So the next one we're going to talk about is The Christmas Secret. And this came out in 2000. There's another one from 2014 called Christmas Secret.
Yes. So I watched the wrong one at first, and I was like, this is, so.
Which, yeah, I mean, that one is like super, super lame, super bland. Nothing much going on there for The Christmas Secret. But this one is definitely more bonkers and more is more fun to talk about.
Yes.
And I, at least on the version that I saw on YouTube, they had like the Paramount logo at the beginning. I was like, what is this? I mean, it was a made for TV movie, so I don't really know why that was there. Yeah, but yeah. So, but yeah, this came out in 2000, and it's in this magical story, a scientist sets out to prove that reindeer can fly, and along the way discovers the true meaning of faith, family, and Christmas. And this stars Richard Thomas and Beau Bridges, and it's directed by Ian Barry and writers Robert Sullivan, Glenn Wolfe, and Jay Porter. So overall, what did you think about this one after you actually saw it?
After I saw this one, I was glad that we were going to be talking about this Christmas Secret instead of the other one. I liked this movie. I actually enjoyed it. It was different. It was more whimsical. It was fun. So there we go.
I really enjoyed it too. I thought it was very sweet. It's, I guess, also called Flight of the Reindeer in some places as an alternate title.
Okay, that's actually a decent title too.
Yeah, it is. And I guess that's the name of the book, is Flight of the Reindeer, which makes a lot of sense. This is one of those holiday films, though, that first of all, I think has benefited watching it off season, because it's just like brings all those feels and you're like, yeah. But then also, it is very easily a horror movie on any levels.
Yeah.
Because he can't leave. He's stuck there. They're keeping it doesn't matter that he has a family. It doesn't matter that he has loved ones that are searching for him. He's in the land of the he's a non-believer in the land of the North Pole, and therefore he cannot leave. They will not.
Yeah. And also, to be honest, like, a different move, if you took a different turn, earlier on, like this could be like his villain origin story too, because he was like his obsession with proving that these reindeer could fly. I mean, he could have taken a dark turn. So,
yes.
So
as a boy, he sees reindeer fly, and so then becomes his obsession.
Yeah, so he was climbing a tree in the woods somewhere, and he falls and is plummeting, and he was pretty high up in that tree. Probably could have really hurt himself, or even essentially, died. But a flying reindeer saves him and lets him fall, and then leaves on the ground. And so ever since then, he has been determined to prove that reindeer can fly.
Yeah, and it's an interesting dynamic that they have, because he is so committed to this cause. You would think that they would love him in the North Pole, but in Santa Land, but they actually hate him because he's trying to prove. He doesn't just believe.
Right. He doesn't have faith.
Yeah.
And if you actually have faith, that you don't need to see things to believe and have this empirical evidence. And so that is just completely against what they're all about. And so And the thing is, he he is a little imbalanced with it, which is why I say this could have been his villain origin story.
Yes. And so I think it goes a long way in counteracting that, the fact that it's Richard Thomas.
Mhm.
He's the dad in the Waltons. He's such a, like, even his voice is like comforting and kind. And you cannot imagine Richard Thomas as a bad person. Like, he's just like, I don't know if he's ever played like that would make him actually a really good person to play like in a horror movie or something, because like it would catch you off guard. It's kind of like when Tom Hanks plays a more, sinister character, because we just associate him so much with kindness, and that it's like jarring. And
right.
But he is just so warm and kind, and I think that helps a lot. It was well cast, and to play a father, I mean, he's like America's father, so it makes a lot of sense. And he's figuring out these things about the dynamics of reindeer flying. He tells his boss, like, so excited, like, look at what I've learned. And you think that they would be kind of like, wow, this is interesting. But he's like, you are a crazy person, and you're not getting tenure, and you're an embarrassment to this university. And I kind of wonder, like, what did they think of his research going forward? Because you have to like get grants and stuff.
So the thing is, he had his original proposal was about the flying squirrels. That's what
right.
That's what he was telling everybody that he was doing his research on, and then he changes it like secretly. And remember, like, because you remember that he even said it to his wife that it was on the flying squirrels, not the reindeer.
Yeah.
And so this is what kind of got me, a little off. And I was like, this is what he should have done. Because it looked like he already actually had all the research and everything for the flying squirrel paper that would have gotten him. He should have written that paper and then done the reindeer research on the side.
Yeah, I think so too. But he's just so excited. He's so enthusiastic.
He's obsessed.
He's obsessed.
And he's crazy, and he's going to turn into a super.
And his wife is very upset with him. You lost your job.
But the thing is, I understand why she's upset. So first of all, actually, she doesn't care about him possibly being crazy for being obsessed with the reindeer. She's upset that he lied to her, and he had never lied to her before, so she did not trust him.
Right.
So she had, which was an interesting scene. But I could understand more about the tenure, because I have a cousin that's been in academia, and it can be tough to get tenure. I mean, and getting tenure is like very sought after for in academia, because if you're not, then you kind of have these little contracts, and then you have to you have to renegotiate and maybe or maybe not get renewed to stay. If you're tenured, I mean, you have a solid position, and it's very, very difficult to get you out of there unless you choose to leave. So so that would represent, especially, it didn't seem like his wife was working. Like, that's, the family's, economic security. So I understood why, she was upset.
Yeah. Well, and he has this daughter, and the daughter still believes.
Yes.
And throughout the whole movie, from the very beginning, she's the true believer.
Yes.
And he even says that later on, like, if my daughter believes, like, how come that's not enough? How come how come I have to go and do the Christmas shopping when she believes? And he says, oh, it's not good enough for one person. The whole house has to believe.
Yep.
And so then he says that I can't and shouldn't be proved, but if I have two believers and one non-believer in the same house, and suddenly presents show up on Christmas morning, then that would be proof, wouldn't it? And he says, I know it's not quite fair, but I don't come to your house if you don't believe.
Yeah.
So strict Santa.
Yes.
I feel like almost all houses have one person who doesn't believe.
Then I guess that's probably why so few people get Santa gifts, and that's why so people love to shop for Christmas. It's because they have the unbelievers in the house. You need to, people watching. You need to look at the people in your house, make sure they believe. So Santa,
You gotta do some inventory here. It's true. Uh, and so he sees the reindeer flying, and he's so excited about it. And
yeah.
then they land, and the elf says, "The boss wants to see you."
Mhm.
It's Nick,
Yeah, so
the boss.
he's going on his little expedition. He's flying himself, and he's about to, they're running low on fuel. And then as he's saying to like the air traffic control people, whoever, that he's ready to land. And just as he's about to land, he sees the flying reindeer, and he follows the reindeer even though he's low on fuel. And
Yeah.
then the plane crashes.
And basically the North Pole is kind of like Brigadoon in this movie. Like it just appears and disappears, and only certain people have access to it, and it's kind of like that. Yeah.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
And we find out that Nick and Mrs. Claus are both over 1,600 years old.
Yes.
Mrs. Claus is 1610 and Nick is 1640.
Yes, and they have a daughter who is 190 years old. That's a tough age. And they're just waiting for her to get to 200 years old so she will get herself together.
Yeah. Yes. And she's kind of your like difficult teenager kind of a thing, which was funny. It was enjoyable.
Yeah.
And then so Mrs. Claus tells him, like, people ask Nick for things he can't give them. Like world peace and things like that. And so that's why that the Believers Room and North Pole have to remain a secret, is because otherwise there would be tourists, and he says tourist fast food places and those theme park people would sure like a piece of it.
Yeah.
That was funny, I thought. But he can't leave. He's stuck there.
Yeah. Nope.
They were just like, oh, I'm sorry, you have a daughter and a wife who love you. Nope, you're stuck.
You're stuck. You could, because you especially because he wasn't a true believer yet, and he would have been trying to tell everybody about it and to prove that he was right. And he needed to understand the value of faith. And once he understood that, he could leave, but he didn't realize that, and so that was part of his journey.
Yeah, because his daughter says that she has faith that he's okay. She says, "I know he's okay. I feel it in here. Yes, I feel it in here. I know you can't see it or touch it, but sometimes you just have to follow your heart."
Yes, yes,
very sweet.
A true believer. Okay, yes.
She has real faith.
Yes.
And so that's very good. And then we also have that the North Pole never is in the exact same place twice. Kind of, it's like it's sort of like Brigadoon that way. And he's the only non-believer to have ever found them. And I think it's probably because he's like a believer adjacent. Like he's almost a believer.
Yes.
It's just that he's also the scientific mind.
Yes. And he needed to put that in perspective because the scientific mind was keeping him from having real faith.
Yeah.
This movie was very churchy.
It really was very cheesy. But I just couldn't get over the fact that like they would really be perfectly content keeping this man there for the rest of his life,
Yes.
even though he had like a loving wife and child that
Yes.
needed him. Like that just is the antithesis of Santa Claus to me.
Yeah,
So it was like, what?
A lot of Santa Claus movies, Santa's kind of scary. So,
Yeah.
but it's definitely following in that tradition where it's like, you know, where yeah, Santa's kind of scary, and it's a little, if you think about it a little bit differently. Yeah.
Well, and Santa's kids, because there's a son too, and it's like everyone gets to go down there, but not us. And so they're kind of rebellious. They're rebellious, and so he finds the reindeer that saved him, Prancer, and he's really excited about that. And he rides it for a second, and he's talking about his family, and he's like, I just miss the little things in life. And then that's why I said they're kind of mean in this Santa world.
Yeah, a little bit.
Thomas. And then there's this really cheesy scene where him and his wife at the same time are both wishing on the shooting star, the North Star, that they can be. It was like somewhere out there in American Tail.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that. It was very, very corny. I forgot to mention in Sons of Mistletoe, and in this a little bit, but not as much. But in Sons of Mistletoe, it was such a good example of that era of TV movie where the accompanying music is so loud and so like obnoxiously quirky that I'm really glad that Hallmark has moved away from that, because even movies that I really like in Nine Lives of Christmas or something like that, like they
did it for a long time.
It was a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like, stop. It's too loud. And even like it was like they had sort of 20 years later, because even feature films in like the 80s would do that a lot, and it was so annoying. Like Baby Boom is one that I love that movie, but the score is so annoying. It's like, we don't need the like quirky backtrack to everything that she does, it's like but they did that really bad in Sons of Mistletoe, and a little bit in this one, but those are the tropes of the TV movie genre for a long time.
A very long time.
So then we find out like Santa, he's a little bit cynical. He doesn't like red. He doesn't like wearing the suit. And this Claus is like, I like you in the suit. Get it together.
Yeah.
And then there's this special control room.
Yes.
What did you think of that? What do you think of the control room? He sneaks in.
Yes. Well, I liked when he got to see, what his, kind of see what his daughter was saying when she went to see Santa, and see, her belief that he was still out there, even though she, there wasn't any proof, and it looked like he might have died in a plane accident. Ever. I thought he played that scene really well. Like, you could see, like, I got feels from that.
It was very sweet. And he sees his daughter saying that I know you're alive. And then Nick says, your daughter didn't need proof. She just knew in her heart.
Yep. Believer.
And I mean, there's definitely there's definitely an element of Big Brother going on with Santa Claus in this movie. I mean, there always is. He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good. So be good, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, that definitely with the control. And he was trying to get proof again, so he still hadn't really learned his lesson. He was trying to sneak and get some proof to take back. Yeah.
Yep. And so then Santa's like, hop in, let's go for a ride. It'll be great. And he tells Santa, he's like, I'm the ultimate true believer. Like, what is going on? And he's like, nope.
Because you're still trying to prove it.
Yeah. And so then his wife has gone up to Alaska trying to find him, because people were like, oh, you're never going to find him. She's like, no, I believe.
Yes. So the wife believes too.
Yeah.
And I love the scene where they were talking about how he was looking for flying reindeer to prove that they could fly. And she was like, it's crazy. And she was like, yeah, it's crazy. Everybody knows that reindeer can fly. Yeah.
So they almost crash into the plane.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then he jumps on the reindeer
Yes.
mid-flight.
Yes.
Pretty wild.
Yeah.
Come on, Nick. Let's have a little faith in people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Nick, I'll never doubt again. I'll never doubt you again.
Yep.
So he's got it. He finally has faith.
Yes.
And then he falls from the sky
Mhm.
and to his family. He's like, Merry Christmas.
Yep.
Yeah. And then he's finally written his article on the flying squirrels. And he's got tenure, he's got an award. People are super excited about it.
Exactly.
About his research. And even the most improbable things can happen if you believe with all your heart.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And he gets a gift of a photo and an ornament where he can look in on Santa Claus land.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's very sweet, very sweet. We also get like a back history of Santa Claus that Nicholas had led this fight against the Vikings, and that basically they started out as a bunch of thieves, and they decided to make presents for the people they borrowed from, and like eventually making the presents became their full-time job, and so that's how. And he says, it was just really funny to me how Santa Claus says to him, he's like, your family thinks you're dead. This is your home now.
Which the thing is, Santa knows that the daughter doesn't believe that he's dead.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's like extra villainous.
A little villainous. So
and I mean, it's Beau Bridges, so it's hard to make it like he's another very likable actor.
So he's like for me, if we think about it, if this was a villain origin story, Santa is the emperor, and Richard Thomas's character was it's like Darth Vader, basically. That's what it is. So
yeah. Except for Richard Thomas can never destroy whole planets. he's not destroying Alderaan.
Who knows if Santa in his
in another reality when he's become so bitter about having to stay in Santa World, then he's become like these Vikings. He's gonna be very angry.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, this one, I was charmed by it. I thought it was sweet, even though I thought it was also kind of a horror movie. It was really funny,
yes.
And it was just something different. I'd never seen it before, so I enjoyed watching it.
So, how many crowns would you give this one?
3.75.
I'm at the same. Yeah. I can't quite give it 4, but it was definitely I enjoyed it. I had a good time watching this movie, and like even some of the things that didn't really make sense, like they kind of made sense ironically. They like it was ironic, and I laughed instead of being like, oh, this is annoying. This makes no sense, kind of thing. So I had fun. I had fun with this movie.
Yeah. And I guess I just appreciate that both of these movies didn't feel a need to like explain away the cheese. They just embraced it, and I feel like sometimes modern Hallmark can actually, I think, be a little bit embarrassed by the soapy elements, by the cheesy elements, and that's what makes something like the Christmas Waltz like so refreshing, because they just like went for it. They embraced the whimsy, and I think that's why that one's so beloved. And I sometimes wish that they would just kind of do that more. So we do agree that both of these are definitely better than the Christmas Secret from 2014. that you watched before.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, let us know what you think of both of these movies. We would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section or on Twitter. And if you have other classics that you'd like us to talk about, let us know in the comments. And make sure you check out the Patreon. That's how Thaddeus and I became friends, is he's a patron.
Yeah.
And he gets to participate in all the watch-alongs and the activities that we do. It's really fun. And you can also be part of our ranking episodes that me and Terry do. So take a look at that. You can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check out that. Also, make sure you're following the podcast, the Hallmarkies Pod, and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. And I'll put our playlist of all these classic recaps that we've done, because it's been really fun. Like I said, The Littlest Angel, we'll never forget it. Never.
Oh my God.
Never.
Oh, and the Milton Berle one is called Have I Got a Christmas for You?
Oh, yeah. That one was good.
Yeah.
And so I'll put that down. Check out that playlist. And check out our merch store. We've got lots of fun festive designs over there. And so take a look. And thanks so much, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.